Hi, and good afternoon. Welcome to a founder and startup resources session with some fantastic presenters. Today we have Dan Abatoy with Venture Herd, Liz Tsai with High Operator, Harshita Drais with Torch, and Dante Batson Griggs with Spatched. Take it away, guys.
All right. Hi, guys. I'm Dan. Just going to do a quick screen share here. Um, yeah, so, all right. Yeah, so this is, one of the questions I always like to have entrepreneurs or, anybody who thinks about wanting to start the startup journey is, where are you actually in your journey? So I think that's going to really help you figure out where you need to start looking and what kind of resources really going to benefit you the most. So I decided I was just going to break this down into the different, typical stages that everybody is used to, and kind of explain the different resources I've utilized. And typically, for the most part, they're going to be Western New York resources, just to highlight what we have right here in our own backyard. So just from, if you're going to start from the idea stage, right? So uh, maybe you're sitting at home right now, you have an idea, or you've been sitting on an idea, and you're like, I just want to get this, onto paper or in front of other people. One of the first groups I would highly recommend checking out is the Niagara Falls Meetup group. It's a really great group of people. The best part is, if you live in Orchard Park like I do right now, you can do it virtually, and you don't have to drive all the way up to Niagara Falls. But you get an opportunity to sit with this, a really small group of people who care about hearing what you're working on, where you're going, and all they want to do is help you get there. Take the next step and move what you're doing forward. Obviously, there's like things like Buffalo Open Coffee Club, Niagara Open Coffee Club, and most of that stuff you can find on the Venture Herd website. So uh, you know, there's so many events going on, and that's why we created the Venture Herd calendar of events. Um, and so if you don't, if I'll share this slideshow after, um, but see, everything in blue is basically a link, so you don't have to worry about finding any of these resources after this chat. Another great source is obviously the Western New York Startup website, or even the Western New York Startup Slack channel, which I'm sure most of us are on. Um, so those are great key places to start, as well as a really new, cool idea that's being it's in beta testing. And it's from a guy in Rochester named Matt Harp. I don't know how many people are familiar with him, but he's working on this really cool new idea about the business model canvas and how to turn it into something that can benefit you right off the bat instead of just being a sheet of paper. So what they're going to do is they're going to focus on three core concepts. The first one is going to be refining your message and making sure that your message is actually speaking to the audience that you want to be speaking to. Next, they'll test your concept, make sure that, help you refine it, and provide early feedback to make sure that what you're actually building is meeting your ideal customer demands. And then from there, they're going to track the growth of your business model, and they're going to really gauge the idea readiness of what you've built. So this is a great opportunity before you jump in and you decide, hey, I'm just going to throw some money into something. Really test out what you've been doing, what your thoughts are, um, and get ready to make sure that when you do take that next step, you're not just wasting your time and money and energy. So obviously, you've done that, right, and you're ready to take that next step. There's a lot of really cool, uh, pretty decently priced, if not sometimes free options out there to help you either build your team or build your MVP. Um, so there's a website also created by a University of Rochester grad called Crossroads Create. Basically, it's like a virtual bulletin board where you take your idea, you put it up there, and other people look at it. And if they're interested and they really like what you're doing, they might join your team. At the same time, you can also look at what other people are doing. And if you really love what they're doing, feel free, you can jump in and join their team. So it really allows for kind of cross-pollination of entrepreneurs to work together. Um, Now closer to Buffalo, there's a course at the University of Buffalo called CSE 611. And so what they do, it's a really cool concept. And I've been a part of it for 2 years now. Basically pitch your idea that you want to have created to a bunch of computer science majors at UB, and then they build your product. And so it doesn't basically cost you any money to pay them since they're receiving college credit. And it's all done under the supervision of a professor. So you're not really worrying about, the students going off the rails or not staying motivated or doing what they need to do. So it's a really great opportunity, as well as getting to learn and meet some pretty awesome kids who are at UB today, just with an amazing skill set. Most of those students are also a part of a club on campus called Invest. And so this is a great opportunity. Maybe you've worked with a couple students through the CSE 611 course, and you just want to keep working with them. It's a great opportunity to talk to them again and maybe set up an internship program and allow them to grow as well, and learn new skill sets and help you. At the same time, you help them get to where you both want to go. And then the last, it's also relatively new company. It's based right here in Buffalo, which is also very cool. It's called Quickware. It's going to be a little bit more of an expensive concept to go with. But essentially, it's an efficient and cost-effective way to build your startup. So they're essentially a startup kind of studio. And so it's a team of 25 engineers and designers, and they have 10 IT partners. And so they again also focus in 3 areas. The first one is Start. So they help you build your software prototype or your website or your app, whichever one you want to go with, from start to finish. And it's again at a very cost-effective, price point. So it's not going to be free, but if you have maybe $2,500 or $5,000, it's worth checking them out. And it'll obviously be done, professional work. After that, let's say if your idea and your app has really become successful, they'll help you scale, and then from there they'll help you with staffing needs. So let's say you need to hire some DevOps or some sort of security personnel to help with the security of your app. They'll help you put all that together. Then they, on top of it, if you're a really promising company, they do have a lot of connections with VCs all over the country, and they have no problem making introductions and getting you in front of the people that can help take your startup idea to the next level. And again, like it's right in Buffalo, so why not support it and use that. Okay, so this is one of the best resources that I have found that people don't really seem to know about. Everybody knows that legal fees and legal costs can be really expensive, but the University of Buffalo has a great e-law center, and it's run by Matt Pelkey, who, if most of you don't know, is probably the biggest name when it comes to startup law and within the entrepreneurship community here in Buffalo. So what they do is they take UB law students, they let them work on projects. So you go to them, let's say you need to create some company bylaws or incorporate your business. They do that. It's all done for free, and the only thing that you're responsible for are the actual fees associated with filing. So it's really a no-brainer. It's going to cost you more than half off of what it would cost to have a lawyer do it today, even in Buffalo, and they do quality work. And again, you're helping UB students learn their trade and all under the supervision of a great mentor and lawyer in the Western New York Buffalo circle. So start there. The only caveat is you have to in some way have some sort of affiliation with the school. So whether you're faculty, staff, an alumni, your co-founder, as a student even. So there, it's great to, if you have those, check it out. I highly recommend that as your first option. Again, banking. So this can be one of the things that, a lot of people will sit there and not really think of when they go from the, I have an idea, now what? Uh, you know, there's a lot of uh, companies out there, banks out there that will offer a business banking account. But if, let's say, you're bootstrapping, it can get really costly really quickly. So Novo is a great company I just learned about. And what they do is basically provide you with a feeless service. So there's no monthly fees to maintain your bank account. And at a price point that so you only requires $50 to open the bank account. And then after that, there's no minimums. This is also FDIC insured. So that's obviously a plus. On top of that, you get thousands of dollars worth of perks. So one of the perks is you get $20,000 in fee-free credit processing from Stripe, $3,000 in Google Cloud credits, and $150 in Google Ad credits. So compared to a traditional bank, this is the route that I would go in. It just makes sense, especially if you're bootstrapping. If you're going to grow out of it, I mean, that's okay. That's a good problem to have. Then you can probably use a traditional bank. And then mentors, right? So everybody needs some mentors. And the Western New York Startup website, again, is a great place. There's a tab that says mentors. You can go right there, book, calendar appointments with them and meet some really cool people. Also take advantage of any type of networking event that is happening locally. Obviously, Startup Week is a great opportunity to meet some cool people. As well as myself, I don't mind. Reach out to me anytime you want, and I have no problem offering support, talking to you, or mentoring you, or even going over more questions that you may have about moving your startup forward to the next level.
Great. Thank you, Dan. And next up is, I'm not sure.
Liz.
Liz, thank you. Thanks again for being here, Liz, with Hi Operator.
Absolutely. Tough act to follow. I'm not nearly as organized. But I'm Liz. I'm from Hi Operators. I figured I'll give you a little bit of an overview of Hi Operator, and then we can do more in Q&A later. Happy to talk about either fundraising or hiring or scaling or banking or accounting and any of that. But we're Hi Operator, and we do customer service. So the customer service industry in the US is really big, right? Companies spend like $160 billion a year on providing customer services. At the same time, it's a pretty manual industry, right? You have people who they show up, they go through training, and then everything's kind of like a long game of telephone as they go through that. Our view of customer service is that the future is very much automation. The question we ask ourselves, though, is what form does that take? We don't think automation is really about replacing human customer service agents. We think it's much more about building tools to make them better and faster, because humanity is still sort of the core of a good customer service experience. So we use a combination of good old integrations and machine learning and AI to make our customer service agents literally 4 times faster sometimes. As a company, we originally started all the way out in San Francisco. We did Y Combinator as a completely different company, pivoted with like a week to go in the accelerator into what Hi Operator is today. So happy to talk a little bit about that. And then out of that, we had really very few paying customers when we came out the accelerator. So went and raised a very small angel and sort of friends and family round, and then said, all right, we're gonna bootstrap our way to some sort of ramen profitability. And the one thing we thought a lot about there was just really aggressively trimming our MVP, right? Because when you've got very little money and very few resources, you can do very little. So for us, it was taking everything we wanted to do and really distilling it down to, well, one, what is the minimum we can do, build and sell to give people an idea of what it is that we are, to try and validate the idea. And then two, thinking of it from the perspective of, are there one or two key things that are going to be make or break for our business to help determine, do we want to spend the next 10 years of our life doing this or not? And so really went out and tested those couple of things, sold our way to realm of profitability, raised a slightly larger round, came out to New York City, and then actually ended up coming out to Buffalo as part of 43 North all the way back in 2019. And right now, what we've been doing is scaling quite a bit. So we came out to Buffalo with 5 people. We are now, a few hundred. So a lot of what we've been looking at lately is just what does scale look like, right? How do you go from a startup of 5 people where everyone's taking out the trash and doing everything to bring a little bit more structure? And that really has involved everything from finance and, getting our books in order because we didn't have a bookkeeper for the first 2 years, to just hiring for the right positions, and trying to rebuild a team essentially every few months as we grow. So happy to talk about any of that. Let me know what would be most helpful as we go through this hour. Excited to be here.
Thanks, Liz. And now we have Dante. Here you go. And just so everybody knows, we're gonna have some time at the end for questions. So then you'll probably hear from everybody again.
Hey everyone, how you doing? My name is Dante Batson Griggs. I'm the co-founder of Spatch. And what Spatch is, we're an on-demand delivery marketplace that provides last mile delivery services for small businesses as well as consumers. To me, I'm the official rookie of, the startup community. I'm the definition of someone coming in out the street, walking into the doors of the community and saying, beat me up and build up my idea. And I have something that I believe in and I need you guys to help me. So I just, want to tell you about my first year really in the startup community and everything that we had to go through, resources, people there to help, and just trials and tribulations of what it's going to take, and you guys can do it too as well. Well, like I was telling you about Spatch, we focus on last mile deliveries. That's why I got into it. I had a delivery company. We were doing a lot of deliveries. I noticed sales picking up, and I was like, man, how can I get this technology into someone's hand? That was the main idea. I knew that was the idea first, and what could I do to advance this? What was the next step? So I did some research, got on Google, started poking around, heard about the startup community, talked to a couple mentors, went to an open coffee club, and pretty much the rest was history. I'm also a member of Launch New York and Startup New York. Circling back around, I needed to get into the door. So the first thing I had to do was find someone to help me. So the resources that were out there was more of a Launch New York, Startup New York. Those were programs that I applied for. Those programs are resources that help get your idea to the next level, work on your business model, whatever's needed to scale your business, as well as potential of financial investment. So working with Launch New York, that was a great resource. We had EIRs, entrepreneurs in residency, and they've been there to help us mold out our dream, mold out our vision, and get us to the next level. Also, Buffalo Startup New York, with UB being a sponsor, that's been a great program. I recommend that to incoming startups. Great tax benefits, great office spacing. We offer 77 Goodell Street, so that's another perk of the program. But again, I just want to just talk about my stories. It's just you guys have to be prepared to be broken down, be beat up, set back, but endure it. Like be able to take it. If your idea, if you believe in it, if you really want to see it go further. Between the Buffalo Techstars, the Launch New Yorks, the Startup New Yorks, it's just a community there of people, individuals who want to help and see you grow. That's that's what it's going to take. So I'm like, Madonna told me, I'm like the walk on. I'm like the guy who didn't have a chance. But if you have the grit and the determination, I welcome everyone. Dive in deep. Like, just prepared to be uncomfortable every day. I've had, even Liz from High Operator. She's helped me out, serves as a mentor, helped me with Y Combinator, get my stuff together, broke me down, building me back up, and it's helpful. And right now at this moment, we have 25 drivers. We're partnered with over 15 businesses. Been able to make a positive pivot since COVID-19 struck. Everything is up. Sales is up. Deliveries is up. Things are looking up. So, but we wouldn't have been able to get to this point if it wasn't for the startup community. Again, the startup, the Slack group, the High Operators, the Launch New York. So this is just a little bit of my story, and I'm looking forward to the Q&A.
Great, thank you, Dante. And thanks, Liz. I mean, you bring up a great point that this is a community that is very rich in resources, and it has also not only resources in terms of organizations and networks and that sort of thing, but that interpersonal where everyone is helpful to each other. All you have to do is ask, and that help is there, or they can make a connection with someone else. So you bring up a terrific point. And I think what everyone is talking about here is that as a startup company, especially if you're new to what it is that you're doing, you don't know what you don't know. You don't know that there are groups out there that you can go to, like Launch. And even on their website, they've got a phenomenal resource page. There's an organization that you can have, it's called Open Office Hours, where you have time that people within the community are willing to share their time with you as a startup organization. And it is a rich resource that would be very difficult to pay for if you had to, because these people are very high level, they've been there, and just remarkably generous. So all you have to do is let those out there know that you need some help, and you'll find it. And with that, I'm going to toss it over to Harshita Gervais, and Harshita is with Torch.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. I am Harshita. I am currently a software engineer working with Torch. If you're not familiar with Torch, it is a YC-backed company focused on executive leadership coaching. Based out of San Francisco, but our engineering headquarters are in Buffalo, New York. And I'm also the executive director for Buffalo Startup Week this year. So thank you so much for your time and joining us this week. So most of my resources or suggestions are based on just being surrounded by really strong founders and people who have been in the entrepreneurial space for such a long time. And most of my recommendations are based on their experiences and just very people focused. So I just want to start off with what Madonna suggested is the open office time. Essentially, it is a database of talented givers in the Western New York community who have graciously signed up to volunteer their time to the community. And it's essentially just people in the community who have experience with a lot of different things, be it founding a bunch of startups, finances, legal, design, product, whatever you need. There's someone out there who's willing to spend volunteer their time and chat with you and help you with your startup, which is a really good resource. I think Clark already put that link in the chat. The other thing that I do want to highlight is Upstate Venture Connect. They are a nonprofit to help entrepreneurs connect with resources that you need. Again, they're mostly focused on helping you connect with the right people to get feedback on your ideas or just any questions that you may have about your company, or if you don't have any other interest in getting connected to certain people, they can help. They have a huge database of people who are from the upstate New York area and have been successful enough to found like unicorns and a bunch of other companies. So they are a great place for you to reach out to and connect with people who've been on the same path as you are on right now. And just tagging on to what Dan mentioned and Dante mentioned, the Western New York Slack community has been a huge help in terms of finding people, like-minded people who are willing to, again, share their experience and their time. Buffalo Open Coffee Club ROCC, which is the Rochester Open Coffee Club. And then more specifically for UB students or students in general is the UB Open Coffee Club. I do also want to highlight Blackstone Launchpad, which I'm guessing most of you are familiar with, but if not, it's specifically for student entrepreneurs, and they focus on venture coaching, mentors, pitch competition, and validation. And they have tons of challenges throughout the year, which are open to anyone. I think mostly students, so that they have the opportunity to get a dive into the entrepreneurial world and get advice from a lot of seasoned entrepreneurs in the entrepreneurship space. What else? I have one more last thing, which is slightly different, but also super useful for anyone who may not be a US citizen. It's called Unshackled Ventures. They are a company focused on immigrants who are looking to launch a company in the United States, regardless of what your status is. You could be a student who are a non-citizen student, or you could be someone who is a new citizen. They really help you with ideation through launching your company and taking care of all the really terrible paperwork that is involved. I know it's a long process, and a lot of you may have experienced that, but they really take that load off of you so that you can focus on your product or your service and on the people that you're looking to serve. I'm happy to answer any questions in the Q&A.
And I'm going to, thanks very much, Harshita. I'm going to toss it back to Liz now from High Operator to see what resources have been most valuable to you in your journey as the CEO of that startup company. You did mention 43 North, obviously, is what brought you here to Buffalo and Western New York. But now that you're here, are there any other resources that you recommend?
Yeah, I think I'd say a lot of it is honestly people, right? So there are tons of blogs out there, there are tons of webinars, and there's a lot of advice, and you should absolutely like take a deep dive into all of that and like arm yourself, but nothing is really as useful as just like really specific targeted advice from a mentor. And I think a lot of people here have highlighted a lot of ways to find that. And Buffalo, working with 43 North has been invaluable for that. The Startup New York program has been great, especially now as we're looking to expand in terms of space. But I really see that because I've had really great luck cold emailing other founders. Like, you guys have to realize that your problems are always more interesting than my problems. Right? And a lot of it really is very tactical. So before starting High Operator, I had never really managed people, and I certainly never had to fire people, right? And I remember a really good friend of mine who he's like a couple of stages beyond us. So we were like raising a pre-seed round, and he was like post-Series B. He spent 4 hours the night before I had to fire my first employee ever, like talking me off the ledge. And it's really tactical advice like that you're not going to find in a blog. You need someone who's willing to sit down, invest the time, and like go through with you. So a lot of it is that, don't be shy about reaching out to people, whether that's through a mentor network, Western New York, or just going out there. And the only thing is, if you cold email, have a very specific ask. It just makes it easier. So there's a lot of that. I think 43 North has been really great in Buffalo in terms of not just sort of general startup advice, right? They know everyone in the area who has a startup who might have encountered a similar problem that they can help link you with, but also in terms of all of the rest of the ecosystem that you might need, right? Whether that's accounting or, applying to startup in New York is great, but then you've got to figure out all the paperwork that goes with it, and they'll know who to connect you with, to things like legal, right? I will say that they have helped us probably cut our legal costs in half from not using really big West Coast firms. So there's a lot of that. And then in terms of communities, Western New York has a ton, but also, think about just like Hacker News. Y Combinator has a huge library of resources. Try and make things as easy for yourself as possible. Yes, having someone set up a custom C Corp for you is probably great, but you can probably also use something like Clerkey or Stripe Atlas, who have a very, like, if you're a typical startup, they'll walk you through the rails, they'll get all the paperwork out for you, and it'll cost you, $500 to a couple thousand instead of easily double or 10x that. At every step, if you think you're spending too much money, look for an alternative solution.
Excellent advice. Sounds great. Are there any apps that any of you think are particularly useful?
I will say that, so we use Rippling now for all of our payroll. And it does things like laptop provisioning and stuff like that as well. That's worked really well for us because we qualify for large group health insurance rates now. This is such a side note. The health insurance is kind of a high cost. Before that, we used a local PEO called Alcott, and our health insurance costs were half of what we got alone as a standalone SMB.
Great. Dante?
I would recommend a app called Eureka, Ureeka.biz. It's a great resource for startups. It's not local, but it's more national, where entrepreneurs are coming in from all around the country. And you have Dan J from Buffalo, who's worked with Facebook and bigger companies, Melissa Morgan and Rob Gatto, and they're really hands-on trying to help your startup grow, whether it's customer acquisition, marketing help, fundraising. It's a great free resource. They offer programs all the time, free marketing dollars, free office hours, free coaching hours. There's always contests and engaging activities to help you grow your business.
Sounds great. Dan or Harshita, you want to weigh in on some useful apps?
Yeah, I would second Eureka. I've used it before. It's actually a lot of fun. It's kind of like if Facebook was actually beneficial. And so I would definitely take a look at that.
I think on my end, I think I'll just push it back to Liz or Dante and Dan.
Okay, sounds great. And if you all of those of you who are attending, if you take a look at the chat, I highly recommend saving this chat file. That alone is such a rich resource. It's toolkits and referrals to different organizations that you can easily take advantage of.
I should be able to download that and put that in the Slack channel. If anybody else wants to share any of their own resources that's attending the event, just put it on there. So then we all have a massive list to pull from. And also, if you guys have any questions for Liz, Dan, Harshita, or Dante, just put it in the chat, or just put it in the chat and we can call in you.
I think sometimes when people see, the organizations that are out there, a couple of you mentioned Buffalo Open Coffee Club, and that's something that I've been involved in. We used to meet in person at Row House on Delaware Avenue on Tuesday mornings at 7:30, and it was astounding to me that no matter the weather, it could be pouring rain, it could be ice cold and sleeting and awful, and it built back up. It was started many years ago, and then kind of fell off a bit, and then was re-energized. And we were just about to move to another venue because we'd outgrown Row House when obviously everything with the coronavirus hit. But we were pulling in upwards of almost 100 people a week. And it was people from almost every walk or every type of business. Tech centric for a lot of it, but not exclusively. And one of the most outstanding things about it was that you were just there to network and talk to people or not, depending on what your interests were. But then the meeting was called to order just for a few minutes, where you would be asked to make a give or give a give. You'd stand up there and tell people, okay, I can do this, this, this. I can offer these resources, or I can offer these services to you. And then you could have an ask, hey, you know what? I really need some help on, fill in the blank. And it was, that went on for about 5, 6, 7 people or so. And then you went back to networking and then went on your way. And that is something that has still carried on virtually. So any of you who are on this, please join us tomorrow morning at 7:30. And it's on the startup link as well. So you can just hop on there and you can fall in and fall out as you choose to. So it's quite informal, but it's also very useful. We've had people come on there and say, hey, you know what? I'm having a problem with this. And then the whole group just weighs in on it and provides some valuable insight and advice. So please join us for that. Okay, and anybody with a question?
Cool. I guess yeah, I guess if there aren't any questions, we could probably start wrapping up. Really glad to have everybody here. Big shout out to all the speakers. Thanks for all the resources. I know I've been in lots of positions where I just don't know where to lean to, and usually you just go to somebody. So just knowing that there's people like you in the community is more than enough, more than even just these links, just to know that we can hit you up and say, hey, I have this problem. Like, what do I do? But yeah, thanks everybody for being here. I hope to see you guys at the other events throughout the week.